please welcome to the stage Norbert Paquet. Norbert is Head of Live Production Solutions at Sony. We also have Bart, Meeus, Senior Manager for Sports, EMEA at LiveU, and Oliver Dumböck, Co-founder and CTO at NativeWaves. Thanks very much for joining us. So this panel has been tasked with exploring the latest trends in capturing live content. So with more content than ever before, we want to look at how to make best use of that, how to reduce production costs, and then also how to boost monetization as well. Thank you all for joining us. So Norbert, we'll start with you, if we may. The session at the start of the day, if you can cast your mind back to one of the first sessions, we spoke about the use of Cine-style cameras during the World Cup and how popular they were, and Laurent, the director, was talking about the use of those. Can you just give us a sense of how popular that type of acquisition is for other clients, and what other trends you're seeing in terms of that end of production and capturing that live content?
Well, I think Laurent explained it very well, is how you tell the story first, but how you get people closer to the action, to the emotions, with also the risk of not being too close from a physical distance perspective. So the Cine-style camera arrived a couple of years ago because they are becoming more accessible, lighter, cost-effective, of course, but they also integrate into the workflow from a technical perspective. They can be integrated into live operations. So that has been a trend that has been consolidating. We see it using in many, many sports because they all enable to extract really from the scene a character, an emotion, whether it's after a goal or the crowd itself was very, very much used during the World Cup to film as well the reaction of the supporters in the stadium. But then it goes like that way for all the other cameras. Now we have more smaller and smaller cameras with very good quality that you can embed, like you see in motorsports, for example, in cars or motorbikes. And then you want to see more cars, and that was said as well. We want to get closer, as Alessandro was saying, sometimes protected by the leagues or the clubs, but into the field, we see corner cams, etc. So I think that's the trend for us to diversify the utilization, and Sony producing multiple sensors from mobile phone centers up to broadcast cameras. We can utilize those into these different applications.
Yeah. So could you summarize it as greater immersion, closer to the action? Is that the kind of...
It's the main trend.
Yeah.
And the other one was not spoken here today, mobile phones. You see a lot of user-generated contents as well, which go aside the main broadcast production, but enrich. And I've seen during the World Cup actually some specific contents produced for social media by dedicated teams with mobile phones in the stadiums, which gives, again, attract different audiences as the challenge of younger audiences, women's, and so on and so forth. So I think those are great tool sets that are incorporated into the main storytelling overall, because at the end, summary is storytelling first.
Yeah. So I guess, yeah, there's a massive range there in quality and cost, I guess, from the Cine style all the way through to the mobile phones as well.
Correct.
Bart, can you give us an idea of what some of your clients are asking for at the moment? And does it kind of play into some of those points that Norbert has made?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to, it's an old saying, but it comes down to content is king, creating more content, and things that Norbert said with the smartphones and getting more cameras in, and getting more cameras in from different angles, making sure that you get the buses, even that the players' buses going from the hotels to the venues, those kind of things. I think that all adds up to providing more content, and providing more content for tier 1 customers. It's what we just mentioned, but there's also the tier 2 and the tier 3 content, which they weren't able to be broadcasted, and now with giving them the tools to do so, they can actually monetize it. So yeah, I think content is probably still king.
Thank you. Oliver, in one of the earlier sessions, we heard from Sky about the work that they're doing on their child sort of focused and friendly production as a way of differentiating what they're offering. Can you give us an idea of how that kind of differentiation of content and that end product can be achieved in other ways.
Yeah, I mean, generally when we look about differentiation, the main thought is about the end consumer experience, right? Because if there is nobody watching, then there's no need to produce anything. So really it comes down to thinking about like how we can attract new viewers, how we can engage the existing users, and there are many ways of that, but one is like to enhance the watching experience for the viewers in sitting in front of their TVs, maybe even in the stadium, like basically everyone watching. And this now ties back into the things that Bart and Norbert just said. It's about having this all this content that's already produced with cameras, like the spider cam that was also mentioned by the directors before, where really cool shots can be made, but then also a lot of this content is not used at the moment. So it's also about offering ways and how this content can be like given or offered to the user, like in new watching experiences. And then this also opens up more use cases where then like new cams, like let's say a body cam, I mean, we know it from motorsports, but wouldn't it be cool if a football player has a cam, like, I don't know, in the shirt or something, if that's possible, right? And then add like more use cases for that, and maybe then also make it more attractive to offer these experiences, because it then ties a lot back together to like this whole storytelling perspective that we heard before, and now also with Manchester City, right? If it's a cam in the shirt of Haaland or somebody, like you can build the story then and connect the audience more to these viewers. So I think basically it's all coming back to that, and I think the new developments in tech, in cameras, is what is really driving this and offering these possibilities.
Use of that, the kind of cameras that perhaps don't have feature so heavily in the broadcast feed was a point that Sigrid made during that director's session earlier. So what might be some of the barriers to making that happen, and to realizing that, and to sharing more of that content with viewers?
Yeah, I think there are some technical challenges definitely there, and they're related also to like the latencies of the cameras, right? How do you get the signal from a camera on a car or on a shirt into the production facility? What's the latency of these cameras to get the content? How do you synchronize them back together with all the other camera feeds that are placed around the stadium? And there I think there are multiple steps. You can, of course, like try to analyze the image and like synchronize them back together, but maybe even on the camera level you can add some time information to make it even easier on the production side to have this content available and synced together. Yeah.
But is that where 5G potentially comes in, around those issues around sort of latency and contribution there?
Yeah, I definitely think that 5G will be a game changer, or already is, because that's, I mean, it started with 3G and 4G, and that was already a game changer, but I think what we're doing now with 5G is kind of, will be the next step, and it will be evolving, and you will be having more and more cameras, or replacing SNGs by those kind of things, and that's then further than the acquisition, that's the transmission part, but you will definitely see that more and more. So it will be a big game changer.
Yeah, if you look at the content supply chain, we talked about a huge demand and a fragmentation of that demand, where the Sky example, you want to target specific audiences. Currently you're doubling up as well the production resource. The content are there. We are producing massive load of contents, but how much of those, and that was another thing that was expressed almost as a frustration, but many are not getting out of the truck. So what's happening in between is that's where you have to connect on the one hand, but you have an editorial challenge, because also you need to direct those contents into these audiences, and that's probably the most costly part. So connectivity is one thing, and 5G will help also to connect all the dots from the end to end with more direct-to-consumer experiences as well. But yet the editorial part is something that needs to be sorted out from an economical perspective because there are business models behind, and that's where also other technologies such as AI can automate clipping, for example, to put at the disposal for social media. That probably is less, I would say, not editorial care, but it's maybe a smaller audience that can accept some mistakes. If you take the 15 million people audience on the main Bundesliga game or Premier League or French League, that has to be top-notch from an editorial perspective. But for some social media, when you want to have some pieces of content, Alan-driven, for example, you put an AI piece in between, and then you can automate a lot of things. So connectivity and automation will be important to really manage that supply chain of content explosion to consumption.
Where does the cloud fit into all of this?
Cloud is, I don't like to say easy, but is an easier way to open distribution channels in a cost-effective manner. I think in the same way that the cost of technology has reduced, as was said on the previous session, I think cloud enabled content distribution channels, and as well with now more software cloud-native tools, production tool sets natively in the cloud. So Sony launched Creators Cloud, where we have a suite of tool sets for producing natively in the cloud, but also to spin up and spin down the resource that you need at the point in time you need those. Then, of course, the business models loving recurrence. If you have a recurrent thing to do, buy your own and do in your own private cloud or whatsoever.
I think also, like, going back to the AI topic that you mentioned, Norbert, it also helps then, like, if you all process this in the cloud, it helps a lot with, like, connecting all the content of, like, the video and the audios and the different commentators in different languages, and also combining that with the data, right? Because when we talk about personalization, maybe there is a tactical feed available where you have, like, on the screens, like, all these visualizations about the tactics to, like, really analyze the game and add this, and maybe that's something that then the user can, like, turn on or toggle on or off, right? And all of this, of course, then ties together also with the point that you made, Norbert, about probably it's not possible, like, for one director, or I don't know how many directors you would need to, like, produce all these different contents to enable also this personalization. So that's then where, like, this AI and automation really plays an important part in the whole system and workflow.
When you speak about this, these workflows, the use of AI, adoption of the cloud, which parts of the production community specifically do you see taking best use of making most advantage of it? Is this for all, or is it still kind of smaller, medium-sized productions at the moment?
Actually, I would say any. From the top leagues that wants to diversify the contents because their audience, as I said, are fragmented into multiple platforms and multiple generations. But actually, where we see the cloud-based tool sets or the software-based tool sets, I prefer to say, because cloud sticks to one deployment model. But when you see the software tool sets not being able to deliver the quality and the resilience that still the hardware accelerated systems are offering, challenge to do the workup on software yet, actually that's starting from the lower tiers. And that's giving them the opportunity for all these lower tiers to produce their sports, to broadcast it in a very cost-effective way. And now you see more and more second, third leagues of any sports, not being football only. I'm a volleyball player. I see more and more volleyball than I never have been able to see before. So I think that's offering leagues as well access to producing and broadcasting their sports, for clubs to broadcast their own image and earn revenue out of that. And that's where I see really software-driven tool sets and cloud adoption starting.
Yeah, I think I can only agree on that. To do the World Cup like this, that's probably not the best idea by now. But I think a lot of tier 2, tier 3 leagues, clubs, events, I mean, for them it's really the way to go, because they can really produce something, and they can actually produce something in a broadcast professional grade way. It's different, of course, but the tool set is expanding, and I think most of the vendors, they're expanding more and more, and it will only grow. So I think it's definitely for tier 2 and 3 events, it's a perfect solution now.
And the conversations that you have with clients around the kind of commercial models, that kind of shift from capex to opex, have those matured now, or are those still are you still having some of the same conversations around the different commercial approaches?
I mean, clients, they're not really eager to invest a lot in hardware because they also see how it evolves and how long will the hardware be there, and maybe in 2 years it's outdated. So I think getting a lot of OPEX models in is definitely something which we do. I mean, we also sell hardware, right? So it's not just hardware, but also on that hardware we have subscription models, and our experience with clients is that they're really open for that now. That instead of giving the big investment in one time, spreading it out and doing it for 1 year and then see what's new. So,
okay. We're nearly out of time for this session, so just as a final thought, I just want to move along the panel and just ask you, each of you, to give your thoughts on the dominant technology that you think is going to shape the way that content is acquired and managed over the next couple of years or so. So starting with you, please, Norbert.
Well, not revealing the Sony theme at NAB, it's creativity connected. So I would say the general thematic around connectivity, not picking a specific technology behind, but 5G and IP in general, will be shaping a lot of things, because that's really bridging the entire content production to distribution supply chain. That would be connectivity.
Okay. And Bart?
I think we can keep it short. I would say 5G and cloud. Of course, I have to say that. I work with LiveU. But I wouldn't work there if I wouldn't believe in it. So I think that's really the future.
Nicely done. Oliver?
I agree with what was said before, but I also think that especially the automation and the combination of like the content with data, and then by like using AI or machine learning or whatever, how you want to call it, will be like a strong influence on how we, like, the future will shape also like across the whole workflow.
Excellent. Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you all very much for those insights. Please join me in
Thank you.
thanking the panel. Thank you, Norbert, Bart, and Oliver. Thank you.